gonna do it to this computer. All right, boom. So we're going. So what's going on, everybody? Of course, y'all already know we are Twin Flames Unite, and today we are going to be going into how to exit the matrix.
Yes, we will be liberating everyone into their real birth.
Yes, 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 yes. So we got quite a few things to cover, and we're going to dive right into it so that we can really get an understanding of what's going on. So let me go ahead and share our screen, and we're gonna get right into it.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm just gonna share that screen. Boom. All right. Awesome. So, and by the way, is our photo showing right now? If you want to, you can not photo, but
Video.
Video. Are you all able to see us, or are you just seeing just the screen right now?
I can see you.
Okay, awesome.
Okay,
Awesome.
perfect.
All right. So that way we know not to do nothing crazy while the video is going. But anyway, all right. So today we're going to be going into how to exit the matrix. Okay. And actually, where did my thing go? Did I close both of them? Okay, there we go. Boom. I needed that. Awesome. And so right now you all are still just seeing the full screen of how to exit the matrix, right?
Somebody, anybody?
Yes, I see it, but I do see you all in the bottom right-hand corner.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, wonderful.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so how to exit the matrix. So just to go into it first, the things that we're going to be covering on this particular subject is, for one, when we're talking about the matrix, like what is the matrix, right? So we're going to be diving into that. We're also going to be diving into where is the matrix, right? And why and how was it formed? Then we're going to be going into why leave the matrix. It may seem crazy to even ask that question, but we're going to dive into why would you leave the matrix?
Right.
Then we're going to go into how to get out. And once we go into how to get out, then what we're going to do after that?
Follow the instructions. There are specific instructions on how you exit the loop, because we're literally in a loop. And also what skills you're going to need to exit the loop. You know, we're going to explain, you know, meditation and why it's important to meditate. Also astral projection, you know, astral travel, why those things are important and why you want to sharpen those skills. And also lucid dreaming, you know, how to control your dreams and what it really means to control your dream and what it means to be lucid, right?
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we got information we're going to go into, and we're about to dive into it right now.
Right.
Okay. So what is the matrix? Just by itself. Now, to make sure that we're providing you all with solid information, not only are we pulling the definition from Webster or whatever urban dictionary you may think, you may know what the matrix is, we want to give some roots as to where this word came from. So we pulled the etymology for the word matrix, okay? And for the most part, what the matrix originally meant was the uterus, the womb. We're talking about like a pregnant animal. We're talking about something where source originates.
It's an area for provided for development. It's really a place of development, a place of growing, right? And that is, you know, a matrix. You're supposed to grow, you're supposed to develop, you're supposed to be nurtured within a matrix.
Yes. Now, and knowing what the matrix is, if you look over towards the symbol on the right top corner, what you're looking at there is the Visca Pisces. If you're not familiar with the Visca,
You said it right, you got it.
Visca Pica. Wow.
We getting tongue-tied.
Pisces up in here, but anyway, but the Visca Pica, this is a very, very, very ancient symbol. And there's a reason why this symbol shows up everywhere, because it is the point of origin. And when you look at the Vesica Pica, you also see how, and just keeping it PG here, I guess it's PG, you can see how it actually represents a vagina.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the vagina is where the womb is.
Right.
Okay. So when we're talking about the matrix, that's what we're talking about as well. And also, if you look at the bottom right, that is the image of Earth's magnetosphere. Okay. And there is a connection between the Vesica Pica and the Earth's magnetosphere, because if you actually look at what is going on, you can see that the Vesica Pica is actually represented in our magnetosphere.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to jump into the next one just to give you a little bit more so that you can see that we're actually in a matrix.
Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So we have matrix equals the Vesica Pisces, okay? Vesica Pisces, if I'm saying it correctly.
I think I misspelled that, but it's okay.
Right, but you guys get it. So how we are formed. So first you start off as a cell, okay? Then you double. Then you turn from 1 to 4, from 4 to 8, from 8 to 16, and so on and so forth until you become what you are right now, right? And we do, as you can see here, in ancient times, like this is not something that's new. This is actually ancient and old protected information. So it really is nothing new under the sun when you really think about it. Life is just a bunch of repeating patterns. So once you get good at detecting patterns, you really get good at life and really understanding, you know, the meaning to life, you know, what you're here to do and why you're even here. So as you can see in the images here, you see this pattern over and over and over again.
Yes, yes, and this pattern pops up everywhere. It is the building block for universes. Okay, and so this is just to give you an idea of where we are, and so just understand that now you can see what the matrix is, or really have a definition of what the matrix is. And the matrix is essentially the womb. This is where things are developed.
Exactly. And if you can understand what the matrix is, it makes it a lot easier for us to understand, what are we doing here? What are we supposed to be doing here? Well, if you're in a womb, it means that you're supposed to be developing. Which is unfolding, right? That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're meant to do within the real construct within a matrix.
Yes, 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 yes. All right. And just to drive it home just a little bit more, just to show that we are in a matrix. As you can see, when it comes to sacred geometry, a circle does fit perfectly inside of the Vesica Pica, okay? And on the left, you can see the Vesica Pica, and we have the circle in the middle, which represents Earth, okay? And through that representation, you can really look at the Earth's magnetosphere and see how that is a representation to show that we are in a matrix where we are here to develop ourselves, okay? All right. So now in developing ourselves, one of the questions that we ask in the beginning, excuse me, is why leave the matrix?
Right, and you know, it is a lot simpler than we really realize, you know. This very same reason why you would leave the matrix, you know, it's the same reason why a baby would leave the womb after it has been developed. So you don't want to stay in a place, you don't want to overstay your welcome, so to speak, because then, you know, what happens when a baby stays in a womb too long? It's outgrown that womb. So now it's time for it to go to its next level in life. Yes.
And I'm just going to stop the screen share here just for a moment to pause and reflect on something that we've also come to the realization on, because during the research that we've done on this particular topic, it has led us down a very deep rabbit hole. And in talking about the development, understanding the trimesters that a woman goes through in her pregnancy, and just understanding that trimesters only is it only means 3 months.
Right.
That's all it really means. But it also breaks down to Nikola Tesla's talking about 369. Okay, because at 3 months you reach your first trimester. At the 6 months you're in your second trimester, and on the third trimester you're at 9 months.
Exactly.
And that's when your development, you get to the point where it's time for you to exit out.
Right.
And jumping ahead a little bit, one of the things to keep in mind as we go through this whole presentation is to understand or remember the gosh, why am I drawing a blank right now? See, I'm getting ahead of myself. But keeping in mind the principle. Why am I not remembering the principle? But the Hermetic principle about as above, so below, as within, so without. So just as things are happening to us, there are things that are happening outside of us that mimic the same birthing process. And even when we go down to the lower subdivisions of ourselves, the same thing is happening as well.
Right. So the smaller world, the atomic world, the dwarf world, same thing is happening on a micro level that is happening on a macro level.
Yes. Yes. So definitely keep that in mind as we move forward. So let's go ahead. Let's get back into it. Get that back up here. Boom. Now, so with that in mind, we are meant to move on to the next level.
Yes.
Okay. That is one of the main reasons for this whole existence. Now, of course, you may find your own reason for existence, but hey, at the end of the day, it's all about moving on to the next level.
Straw, just like a stir.
I'm sorry that if you wouldn't mind muting just for a moment there, please. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and get into the next point, but just a little humor here, because in line of what we were talking about last night on our live, we want to make sure that we don't take ourselves too seriously. Okay. Now there are 4 types of people that you're going to meet in life. All right. One of them is the people who try to wake up slaves.
Right. Well, you know, so to speak.
Right. And then you have the slave masters.
Right.
Then you have the people who have no idea that they're slaves. And then you have the people who like being a slave.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this is, even though it's humor, this actually plays into the part of why would somebody leave the matrix? Because just like the individual number 4, you know, he got the knowledge of what happens after this matrix, but he was like, you know what? That's just too hard for me. Just put me back in.
Right, and then you can just look, consider him like an adult, right? That's actually grown up, you know, but they've seen life. They have seen what life has to offer, but they just want to still live at home with mom and dad.
Yeah.
They still want to live at home in their parents' basement. They're not really too interested in getting, you know, their own house or owning their own. They're not interested in none of that stuff, even though they know that it's out there and it would be a next level for them to evolve to. They're pretty comfortable just living in their parents' house.
Right. Now, in regards to this whole matrix, when it was originally developed, it wasn't meant to be the way that it currently is.
Right.
And this is where we're getting into today, is that a lot of the truth was hidden. Okay. And we're going to get into that point of as far as what exactly was hidden throughout all of this. Okay. I was just checking something there. Okay. Because this place, this universe was meant to be a utopia. Okay. It was meant to be a place where, yes, we came to develop and we reached our potential and then we moved on to the next levels. But because of everything that went on, a lot of that information was hidden. But this is where we were supposed to be. Okay. All right. But now let's get into the meat and potatoes of things. Let me just check in with everybody real quick. Come on, stop the screen share. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
All right. So just checking in. Let me double check to see if we got anything in the chats real quick before we move forward. Okay, awesome. Cool. All right. So with that being said, we're about to get into the meat and potatoes of things right here, okay? Because this whole thing that we are experiencing is really about death.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have their own ideas of what death is. But for the majority of a lot of individuals, death is seen something as negative. Okay? So today, one of our intentions is to dispel that myth that death is something that is negative or something that is to be feared. It is nothing to be feared. Okay? It is a natural process, and it's also a process to help move us on to the next level. Right.
It's more of a transitioning. And it's really, I don't want to say sad, but it's very misleading the way that, you know, things are set up to gear individuals or gear souls into being afraid of the one transition that really takes them to the next level as far as growth for your soul, right? It puts a bad connotation on our transition, on our development. And when you are actually afraid of that one thing that really would take you to that next level, it stunts your growth. And so you just continue, it's like just repeating the first grade because you're afraid of going to the second grade. So you just keep learning your alphabets over and over and over and over and over again. And after a while, you know, you're stunted. You're literally stunted on a spiritual level.
Yes. So this is a part of the information that was hidden, and we're about to get into it. But first, let's talk about death a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so death is really just sleep's cousin.
That's it.
Okay? Because when you look into the medical terminologies of death, getting from this slide, well, actually, let me stay on point. Death is merely a step beyond sleep. Okay? That is when the higher self's purpose, the soul, is drawn into a permanent state. Oh, wow.
Akin to sleep.
One of which is impossible to return from. Now, when it comes to sleep and when it comes to death, one of the things that we're talking about when it's talking about the soul being drawn away from its permanent state, what better way to actually show this is to go into the next slide.
Yeah, this is a perfect way to explain it.
Okay, so when it comes to your subtle bodies, okay, one of your subtle bodies that is very, very key is your etheric body. Your etheric body is the one that is closest to you, as you can see in the red here. And this is the one that usually goes out and travels when you're sleeping and things of that nature. But the only difference between death and sleep is that in death, your etheric body leaves your physical body. Okay? Your etheric body actually detaches from your physical body. That is the major difference between sleep and death. Yep. You can look into all the other different medical terminologies and things of that nature, but at the end of the day, that is the, what do they call it? The ether that they measure from when a person dies.
The weight.
Yeah, that weight.
Yeah, the difference, yeah.
Because there's a difference between when your body, when you die, and then there's a different weight to when your soul or your etheric body actually leaves your vessel.
Right. Yeah, it does. They do a weight, like I think, what is it, within 48 days? Something like that.
Well, it's even shorter than that. It's within like 2 or 3 days after the death.
Right, that's about 48 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So about 48 hours after they weigh the body, and it's actually a different weight. It's actually a little lighter. And you know, they're saying that they can't figure out why it's lighter, but I mean, they know why.
Yeah, they know why. So yeah, so that is what's going on here. So just to give you a little visual here, we get a little high tech. So just to give you a visual on what's going on. So after this happens and your etheric body actually leaves the vessel, what's the next step? Where does that etheric subtle body go? Okay. All right. So now, where are the options of where the body can go, baby?
It can ascend to the stars, or you can come right back here to planet Earth. And believe it or not, more souls, they come back here to planet Earth. There are few souls that act well. Back maybe in ancient times, it was the norm to ascend because that's what they did. They knew how to ascend, and they understood that death was not like the final answer. They understand that it was a transitioning, just like going to sleep, you know, and literally they understood that when you go to sleep, you dream, right? Nobody is afraid to go to sleep. There is no one that's really afraid to go to sleep because you know you're going to wake up the next day. You're sleeping. So it's the same way our ancients, you know, our ancestors, it's the same way they dealt with death. They were not afraid of it because they understood what's next.
Yes. And so with that being said, that is the perfect segue into, well, how do you choose which way to go?
You have to know that you have a choice.
Yes. That is the first major key. And if you're watching and paying attention, that is one of the first major keys to this whole process, is for one, knowing that you have an option.
And this is a trick. They took away the knowingness and they replaced it with the belief, a falsehood belief system that literally keeps you trapped here. That's the belief system, right, is what keeps people in the loop.
Yes.
So when you can go back to your own gnosis, when you can go back to the knowing, this is when the choice emerges or re-emerges. And if you want to come back here, come back here. But you don't have to keep repeating first grade. You do have a choice. You can go to the next level.
Yes, and that's what we're about to get into. And the next level was really written out real plain for all of us to understand. So let's get back into it. All right. So there is a path that we can take, and it's taking the Pharaoh's way. Okay. Now, before we can actually get into the instructions of, get into the instructions that were given to the pharaohs as far as how to ascend to the stars, we got to do a little bit of background for you. Okay. And one of the backgrounds is to understand that these details were given in the coffin text and the pyramid text. What you're seeing on the right-hand side, which please forgive me, I forgot to name which pharaoh this was as far as this tomb is concerned, but inside of his coffin were the instructions on how to ascend to the stars. And when you look at the bottom right, you're actually looking at Pharaoh. Why am I forgetting how to say his name? It's P-E-P-I. How do you say that again?
What is Pepi?
Yeah, Pepi. Yeah. Wow. Why am I drawing a blank? That's weird. But yeah, there's Pepi's pyramid, where the pyramid text was actually found. And so just knowing that the coffin text is dates back to 21 BCE, and the pyramid text date back to 3000 BCE. Now, in these coffin texts and the pyramid texts, you would actually find, thank you so much for the stage, because something's trying to block this transmission from coming through, but we can't stop, won't stop.
Nope.
All right. So these texts were actually something that was developed way before any religious text. And one other thing to understand, and I'm gonna break out from this for just a moment. One other thing to understand, that when these coffin texts and these pyramid texts were developed, spirituality and science were one and the same.
Yes, they were not separated.
They were one and the same. So it's that is something that we would encourage to get back to. And actually, through some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, you can actually see how the religion and the science are actually one and the same.
Yes, yes,
Okay?
yes.
It's just one talking about the other, but they're talking about the same process. There is no difference. They are one and the same.
It's the same coin, just different sides of a coin. And something did come to me today. A few things came to me today while I was sitting here on this ley line. But what I realized is that on a smaller level, on the micro level, and on an atomic level, there are actually beings who they study the quantum world, and you'll see it now. Now it's, everything is out there, but there are certain beings who study the quantum world, and I realized that the reason why they paid so close attention to the quantum world is because that is the smaller world, and that's the real world. To be honest with you, because that's where things start out. That's where things grow, is the quantum world. So if you wanted to control, if you wanted to manipulate, you have to do it on a quantum level.
Yes.
Right. If, like, take for instance, I don't know if you guys know about the mamas or the lunar. They're the guardians of this planet, and think they're like in South America. They're on YouTube. You can look them up. They guard the planet. They tell these individuals that try to run the planet when they're doing too much. Sometimes they'll listen to them. Sometimes they won't. But the mamas, they have no. Like, they don't really study the atomic world. They're not really interested in the workings of the world on an atomic level. Not that they really don't know what takes place, right? But they're not so in tune, or they're not too concerned about the atomic particles, because they're not interested in controlling and manipulating nature the way things are naturally. They are just here as guardians.
Yes.
So for the ones who want to control and want to reshape and rebuild through their art and make it official, artificial intelligence, they're the ones who are really more focused on the micro world, the quantum, the dwarf world, because they want to take part in the mass manipulation.
Yeah, they want to play God. They want to play God. All right, but let's get back into it, okay? So we're talking about the coffin text and the pyramid text. These are where the instructions came from, as far as how to exit this matrix. And we're going to show you how they actually really are talking about exiting the matrix. Now, the coffin text, just in a nutshell, the coffin text is a collection of ancient Egyptian funerary spells written on coffins beginning the first intermediate period. Okay? Now, also keeping in mind that this stuff is not something that can be built within a few weeks. Okay? Maybe the coffin can, but when we talk about these pyramid texts that we're going to get into as well, you just have to understand that they knew that this was coming. They were not afraid of it. And they welcomed it. So if our ancestors were not afraid of death, then we shouldn't be as well. You're only taught to be afraid of it, and you're taught to go towards the light because it brings you back here to literally keep this matrix going, to keep the loop going. Yes. Now, in regards to the coffin texts, they were partially derived from earlier pyramid texts, which we're going to get into a moment, which is reserved for royalty use only. Okay? So there's a reason why this information was not shared to the masses. And this is actually another revelation that we came to, which we're going to cover in just a moment. But there's a reason why only a select few got this information. And going into the pyramid text, which is Pharaoh Pepi, which I was talking about before, this is where we did our research in as far as the pyramid text. Now, one thing, and these are actually images from Pepi the First pyramid, so you can actually see where all of this was written inside of his pyramid walls. Now, here's the thing. On this bottom right corner is actually the picture of his temple, his pyramid. Now, I didn't pull up any other pyramids in comparison to this, but I really should have because this says a lot. Does this pyramid look like the normal pyramids you see in Egypt?
Sure not.
It does not. And you have to wonder why that is. Why is it that this one was in shambles versus the other ones that are pretty much all intact? And coming out of the screen here just for a moment, let me come back. Okay, so the reason why his pyramid is different from the other ones is also a indication into the translations when it comes to pyramid text, because some of the translations when you look into the pyramid text are misleading on purpose. And Alexis, I don't know if you had something to say. I see you coming in. Michael.
Oh, no, sorry.
But when it comes to the pyramid text, there are certain translations that are translated wrong on purpose.
Yes.
I'm going to say that again. There are some scholarly books that are out there that were actually put out to mislead you on purpose.
This is why discernment is so key. Discernment and your inner gnosis meditation, all these things come together to really help you to really discern red flags and to pay attention to the red flags. Trust your intuition and trust your instincts.
Now, just to go back, so just knowing that and understanding the reason why his particular temple was not maintained, but everybody else's was, but we actually pulled the translations from Pepi's first pyramid text, and the individual who translated his was Samuel B. Mercer, which we will provide a link for you all towards the end so that you can actually get a copy or be able to read the pyramid text for yourself. And the funny thing is that you're going to see a lot of religious stories in the pyramid text that predate any religious text.
Very repetitive. You'll just start seeing it over and over again.
I'm just saying, but we're definitely going to provide you with some information so that you can actually research this yourself, because one of the things that we stress over and over again is that we're not the end-all be-all, and we do strongly recommend that you do your own research and so you're self-approved before you move forward on anything else. All right? But just going into the pyramid text just a little bit more here, just to give you some understanding. You want to read this because you read way better than me.
Okay. Okay, so the pyramid texts of Pharaoh Pepi. Okay, so the pyramid texts of ancient Egypt are the oldest large body of written material in the world. In the world, okay? At least in this world.
Yes.
They're incised on limestones and thousands of lines of hieroglyphics containing fragments of myths, okay, and legends, historical references and astronomical lore, geography, cosmology, religion, and ritual systems of theology, festivals, magic, and morals, and with a literary technique capable of expressing the finest religious and ethical thoughts. Finest religious and ethical thoughts.
Yes. So once again, I'm gonna just go back to the previous slide once again, so you can see that a lot of this predates a lot. Okay, the coffin text, which goes back 2100 BC, and then the pyramid text 3000 BCE. Okay, So we're talking about some very old, ancient information. But before we go in a little bit further, there is a major story that we have to cover.
Yes.
Okay? Because the instructions that we're about to go into is depicting the story of Osiris.
Yes, brief story of Osiris. So let's talk about Osiris a little bit. You know what? It's funny. I did not know Osiris was green.
Yes, he actually is green.
I was laying on my bed one day and I got the intel from the inside, right? Because intelligent means to tell ourselves from the inside, intel, that there were once green beings, green and blue beings that lived on the planet. And for a moment, I was like, green, that is interesting because when you look at this planet, it's a lot of blue and it's a lot of green in its original form. And so it's not until I really started researching, and then this came up, with Osiris is green. So I was like, wow, that's why it's really important to trust your instincts, right?
Yes.
So for Osiris,
yes,
the Osiris myth is the most elaborate and influential story in ancient Egyptian mythology. It concerns the murder of the god Osiris, a primeval king of Egypt, and its consequences. Osiris's murderer, his brother Set, usurps his throne. Meanwhile, Osiris's wife Isis restores her husband's body, allowing him to posthumously conceive their son Horus. The remainder of the story focuses on Horus, the product of the union of Isis and Osiris, who is at first a vulnerable child protected by his mother and then becomes Set's rival for the throne. Their often violent conflict ends with Horus' triumph, which restores Ma'at, right thought, right order, that's Ma'at, cosmic and social order, the right way of doing things, so to speak, to Egypt after Set's unrighteous reign and completes the process of Osiris's resurrection. So this is a story that was told, and we're going to get into more of how Osiris is really, what it means to be Osiris and what it means to be Set, and all of these archetypes.
Yes.
What it really means to resonate with these archetypes.
Yes, because one of the things to understand before we go into the instructions that were given to the pharaohs and priests and nobilities is that in knowing that during these times they considered spirituality and science to be one and the same. So when it came to the kings, one of the things that was really understood was that all of these Egyptian gods, African gods, were just archetypes of us. Because when you look into Seth is the one who causes confusion, likes to go to war. He likes to fight a lot.
Right, kind of like our immune system, right?
Right.
We need our immune system to go to war every day.
Right. And when we look at Isis, we're talking about our motherly nature, our ability to nurture and to love. Okay. When we look into Horus is the considered the hero, and that's where the hero's journey really comes in. Because when you look into the hero's journey, just real briefly, Horus was living a beautiful life. His daddy wasn't reigning yet, but he was living a mundane life. His uncle came through and wrecked shop, and then he had to go through and fight his uncle Seth in order to gain back and bring order into the world.
Bring Ma'at back, cosmic and social order.
Right. So all of these Egyptian gods, even Thoth. Thoth is knowledge. Yeah, Thoth is knowledge.
Exactly. And then when you think of Osiris being green, we already know what energy that represents. The green is the heart.
Yes.
This is the heart chakra, the energy of the heart space, right? The compassion. When we think of the blue, the blue represents like the throat chakra, the confidence to speak up, right?
Right. Yes, yes, yes. So, and going back to this image, let me bring this back up, because this image right here is pretty much depicting, what is that?
Okay.
I'll come back to that later.
Right.
Okay.
Is it two?
Oh, it's going through it. It's like really popping off, but let's stay on focus.
Okay.
Okay. So the story of Osiris is really talking about his transition to the stars. Okay. Because Osiris was an individual who ruled over Egypt. His brother was jealous. He ended up killing Seth. But Isis loved him so much that she wanted to bring him back to life. And at one point, she was able to get his dead body away from Seth. And when Seth found out about it, he chopped his body up and he scattered him all over Egypt. And then Isis had to go through and find all of his pieces, bring them back together, and then do the mummification, which mummification was actually was something that was started because of Osiris. Okay, but now once she brought his body back together, because of the way things happened, he couldn't live on earth anymore.
Right.
He had to ascend to a whole nother path. And that whole other path that he had to go through was actually going through 12 different gates to the point to where he became the king of the underworld. Okay? And so this is just talking about the whole story of ascending just like Osiris. Okay? And one other thing to keep in mind is that there have been quite a few people who have taken Pharaoh's path. Okay? And they have ascended. A lot of people call them the ascended masters. And there's a bunch of different ways of going into it, but essentially what is going on is that you are transitioning from being on this earthly plane to going on and doing bigger and better stuff. All right?
No more nursery rhymes.
All right. So let's get into it. So we're going to put down the instructions here. And these instructions were actually given through the coffin text and the pyramid text. As we go through this, some of the coffin text and pyramid text will be referenced. But once again, towards the end, we're going to give you the links so that you can actually download the pyramid text and coffin text and things for yourself, so that you can once again go through and read those for yourself. But here are the instructions. If you're able to take a screenshot, definitely take a screenshot right now if you can. Okay? So the instructions. Okay, so the Egyptian path to the stars begins with the deceased traveling to the northern polar region of Earth, guided by the unwearyingly stars or pole stars. Here at a great stairway exists, where the sun god Ra waits with his crew of 8 to ferry the deceased through the double doors of the Duat. Okay? The deceased is urged to go up upon the great west of the sky and go down upon the great side of the earth. With the gods of the suite of Osiris, and the sun god Ra, coffin text 18, Orion and Sirius are the imperishable stars, and the general direction the deceased travels from west to east, coffin text 118, against the background of the Milky Way or street of stars. Okay, so this is essentially, once again, these are pyramid text and coffin text that have been pieced together to actually show the instructions on how to exit the matrix. Now, in reading through this, it brings up a lot of questions. But before we go into those questions that we're going to break down, one of the things to keep in mind is that when you go through and read the pyramid text and the coffin text, and the reason why we were actually able to go through and make this a little bit more simplistic is for one of the researchers that we went through a series of books called the Isis Thesis. Now, through the Isis Thesis, Judy J. King was able to go through and break down the translations of what was going on. And when you actually read the pyramid text, a lot of the stuff is repeated over and over again. And it was repeated over and over again just to really draw things into your subconscious. But when you get to the point, you can actually piece it all together and just break it down to something that's really simple and mundane, so that it can really be something that you can grasp and something that you can master. Okay? So just keeping that in mind is that the information that was just given was pretty much about, how can I say this, about 300 to 400 pages broken down into a paragraph.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Like the bottom line. And just so we can put this in a very mundane way, a very easy way to understand, is to, when you think of the matrix, right, you think of an exit point, or you think of the womb, and you think of a mother who's given birth, right? And understand that we are in a place where we're developing and we need to come out after we've been developed.
Yes.
And babies need to know how to come out, right?
Yes.
They get help with the magnetic force, the pull of the mom pushing, but babies still got to know how to wiggle their way out of there.
Yeah.
Right. And when you think of some babies, unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, who don't always make it out of the womb. Some of them only make it to their first trimester, which is their first 3 months. Right. Some of them, they do the 6 months, but they still make it out of the womb, but there is still an exit point. Once they've developed, that they need to exit from that point. So you can think of this the same way, right? We talked about being on a micro level and also on a macro level, as within, so without. And this is just a way of applying the natural laws to help you to really navigate these realms, these waters, is to understand that we are in a womb. And at some point in time after our development, we need to leave the womb. And so this information our ancestors knew, but now, we're in the golden age. So being that we're in the golden age, we now have access back to this information that we did not many moons ago. Right. And so we do have a choice now to come out of the loop. If you've seen the movie The Matrix, there's a really short clip where Neo actually was able to exit the womb. He was no longer plugged up. Right. He was unplugged, literally, from being in the womb and being fed off of. So you can look at the individuals who keep looping as the ones where they're just in the womb, and they're literally, the matrix, they're plugged up, but they're being fed off of. Yes. Instead of given the opportunity to actually birth and move to their next level. Boy, oh boy.
All right, now this is okay. We're about to really get into it, but let's read the instructions one more time, and then we're gonna go through and we're gonna break this down. Okay? You want to read it this time?
Yeah. So the instructions, really simple, and we're gonna give you, the pictures of this. This is just the instructions. If you got a phone, you can screenshot this. This would be cool, but just something to go off of. We do encourage you to read the actual coughing text for yourself, so that you can get, start to awaken the gnosis within self. All right. If you're here, you already know this information. I'm pretty sure this is kind of like a remembrance that's happening right now. So the Egyptian path to the stars begin with the deceased traveling to the northern polar region of Earth. The deceased king would be us when we cross over. That's the deceased, right? And guided by the unwearying stars or pole stars. Here, a great stairway exists, and we'll talk about that stairway in a minute, where the sun god Ra waits with his crew of 8 to ferry the deceased through the double doors of the Duat, right? Again, this is a birth. You're literally birthing yourself. This is your actual birth. When you think of the double doors, you can think of the female's vagina, which is an exit point of her womb. You have the double doors, which is the double lips that you come through, and you do come through with water, right? So the deceased is urged to go up upon the great west side of the sky and go down upon the great side of the earth with the guides of the suit of Osiris and the sun god Ra. You can find that in copy text 18. Orion and Sirius are the imperishable stars, and the general direction the deceased travels is from west to east, which is we, right? Coffin text 118. Against the background of the Milky Way are the streak of stars. Okay?
All right. So, in reading this passage, there are three things that really stood out to us, and also as far as Judy K. King pointed out in her book as well, which is that, okay, in looking at this text, what the hell is the Dawat? Okay.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, what is this Dawat? And I don't know what this is, but we're gonna figure out what it is. The second question is, why go to the north?
Right? What's up there? What's in the northern polar region? I don't know. They covered it up in Antarctica, or what's the place called?
Antarctica.
Antarctica. They say you can't go there. Why we can't go there?
And then the last question is, what is the Great Stairway?
Remember how they talk about the stairway to heaven? They always talk about that.
Yes. And see, once again, we're talking about some ancient texts that predate any religious text, and they're talking about a stairway to heaven. Oh, and one other quick thing. I'm gonna come out just for a moment. I promise you, we're gonna go back in. One of the reasons why it is very important to follow your intuition and know that some of the translations, when it comes to the pyramid text, are misleading. For example, when you look at the pyramid text translations of Faulkner, instead of saying heaven, he says sky. There's a big difference because in Samuel B. Mercer's translation of the pyramid text, it is heaven, that there's a great stairway to heaven, versus Franklin's translation where it says a great stairway to the sky. There's a big difference in that.
Huge.
And understanding, because we know what heaven is, and like we all want to go to heaven, but who all wants to go to the sky? Okay, so just understand that it is really, really important to trust your intuition and not take things for their face value, but dig a little bit deeper, because the way things are set up right now, the veil is pretty much gone. And if you dig just a little bit, you can find some truth.
Or if you just open up yourself and just be in that awareness state, it'll come to you.
All right, let's get back into it. All right, so we got these three questions that we're going to be looking at, and we're going to dive in and dissect it for you a little bit. But once again, as we mentioned before, is that we want to keep this principle in mind as we move forward, with understanding that as above, so below, as within, so without. Okay, this is a very ancient alchemy theme. Okay, and now this is just coming to me intuitively. Alchemy was the original religion, and alchemy consisted of spirituality and science. Okay, so let's get into it. So just keeping those things in mind. So first, what is the Dawat? Okay.
This was the biggest question for us. Like, what the hell is the Dawat? Are we in the damn Dawat? Is this the Dawat?
Right.
So Dawat is the realm of the dead, pretty much. This is where Osiris is king, right? So the realm of the dead in ancient Egyptian mythology. And whenever you guys get a chance, you should look up the esoteric meaning for mythology. You'll be very surprised, because you will think that it comes from the word myth, which means a story, or which means something that's fictional, but it's quite the opposite, right? Mythology, it has been represented in hieroglyphics as a star in circle. The god Osiris was believed to be the lord of the underworld. He was the first mummy as depicted in the Osiris myth, and he personified rebirth and life after death.
All right. So this is what the Egyptians meant as far as in their quote-unquote mythology when it came to the Dawat. But here we go with some science on top of it. Okay, where is the Dawat? They actually put it in the coffin text. Okay, so in the Egyptian coffin text refers to the crossing of the watery way of the sky windows, the lake, the sea, navigating the winding, the winding waterway and being towed over the district of waters with ropes of copper. And actually, in Faulkner's translation, it's actually ropes of iron. But in Samuel B. Mercer's, we put in that it's ropes of copper. Okay? So, when we look into the Earth's magnetosphere, these waterways, if we look in here on this image on the right, you see all of these different waves. These are actually the waterways that they were referring to were the cosmic winds that are being pushed onto the Earth's magnetic sphere. Okay, and you can see that being depicted here in the image. So you can see these different water winding ways are what they're talking about as far as the waterways of the sky, windows, the lakes, the sea. It's talking about this whole image is depicting how water moves around a shape. Okay? And this is also a testament to show how intelligent, very, very intelligent the Egyptians were. They weren't somebody who was primitive. I mean, when you look into how they did mummification and things of that nature, they were not primitive beings. And actually, just to give a little bit more illustration on the Earth's magnetosphere and how these things move, we actually have a little video for you. Okay? So this is just a little demonstration of the Earth's magnetosphere. We want to thank Nova for this video. Let me make sure the audio is there. Oh, come on back.
Our sun is constantly blasting huge amounts of hot plasma out into space. All those charged particles have a big effect on everything in their path. So what's protecting Earth from the solar wind and solar storms? Earth's thick atmosphere provides some defense, scattering and absorbing solar particles before they reach the surface. But our planet also has a secret weapon, a strong magnetic field protects its space, generated by molten iron alloys sitting in Earth's outer core. The area of space where the magnetic field interacts with the solar wind is called Earth's magnetosphere. Its shape constantly changes as it's bombarded by solar particles. As positively charged protons and negatively charged electrons enter the magnetosphere, most of them are deflected around Earth, long before they reach the atmosphere. The magnetosphere really gets tested when big solar storms, carrying more plasma and traveling at higher speeds, are on a collision course with Earth. While most of the plasma is deflected, some of it gets trapped in the magnetosphere and funnels back toward Earth along field lines emanating from the poles. As charged particles from the sun collide with nitrogen and oxygen molecules in our atmosphere, they create the cosmic light shows known as auroras. The bigger the storm, the further from the poles auroras can be seen. Some storms are so big they interfere with satellites, cause planes to alter their routes, and can create other problems. The vast majority of the time, these inconveniences are pretty minor, but the next time the solar version of a perfect storm overwhelms Earth's magnetic shield, we might not be so lucky.
All right. Now, just to make sure, and I should have asked this before while we were in it, was everybody able to hear that video?
No.
Oh,
Okay. I'm going to,
oh no.
I do apologize. I don't know why I didn't think about that before I actually did it, but I'm going to do this one more time just so you all can actually hear what is going on, because one other thing to keep in mind is that while you're watching this video, this is actually a depiction of what is going on in these coffin texts that they're referring to. Because each one of the coffin texts that are talking about the instructions, as far as going and moving on to the stars, is depicting this whole process of Earth's magnetic sphere.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through and play it one more time. It's a short video. It's like probably less than 2 minutes. But let me get this back up. And if you all would, I'm gonna hit it this time and just let me know if you're able to hear it. Let's go again. Let's go back. Okay, are y'all able to hear that?
Our sun is constantly blasting
Okay,
I
good.
say y'all are? Okay.
Awesome.
Yes.
huge amounts of hot plasma out into space. All those charged particles have a big effect on everything in their path. So what's protecting Earth from the solar wind and solar storms? Earth's thick atmosphere provides some defense, scattering and absorbing solar particles before they reach the surface. But our planet also has a secret weapon, a strong magnetic field it projects into space, mostly generated by molten iron alloys moving in Earth's outer core. The area of space where the magnetic field interacts with the solar wind is called Earth's magnetosphere. Its shape constantly changes as it's bombarded by solar particles. As positively charged protons and negatively charged electrons enter the magnetosphere, most of them are deflected around Earth, long before they reach the atmosphere. The magnetosphere really gets tested when big solar storms, carrying more plasma and traveling at higher speeds, are on a collision course with Earth. While most of the plasma is deflected, some of it gets trapped in the magnetosphere and funnels back toward Earth along field lines emanating from the poles. As charged particles from the sun collide with nitrogen and oxygen molecules in our atmosphere, they create the cosmic light shows known as auroras. The bigger the storm, the further from the poles auroras can be seen. Some storms are so big they interfere with satellites, cause planes to alter their routes, and can create other problems. The vast majority of the time, these inconveniences are pretty minor. But the next time the solar version of a perfect storm overwhelms Earth's magnetic shield, we might not be so lucky.
Okay. All right. So you all were able to hear and see that one. Now, once again, this is a scientific representation of what is being talked about in the coffin text and the pyramid text.
Mhm.
And so, with that being said, once again, this is merging spirituality and science. And it's also showing the amount of intelligence that, or intel,
Mhm.
that the Egyptians had, because at that time, as far as we know, they didn't have spaceships. And they weren't able to go out and see all of these different things as far as the ways and how the sun's plasma moves around the earth and things of that nature. But when they are talking about this waterway in the pyramid text, they are talking about the cosmic winds, and they're talking about the cosmic winds that go around the Duat,
Mhm.
and the Duat is Earth,
Mhm.
okay? And so let's get back into this. Let me get this back up.
Yeah, we just gonna let them have that we didn't have spaceships back in the day, and they just knew how to build it all by themselves.
Right, right.
We gonna let them have that.
All right. So let's get back into it. All right. Come on, let's go to the next. Okay.
Mm,
So now that we know that we are in the Duat,
right,
and the Duat is the matrix,
right.
so they're one and the same, but why go to the north?
Mm.
Why go to the north? And but it's something a little fun. We may get into it, we may not. But this polar bear is very significant, okay? If you are not familiar with this constellation, we seriously recommend that you get very familiar with this constellation.
Mhm.
And as you can see, you have the Big Dipper in this constellation, but it also has a second name. And that second name is Ursa Major,
Mm.
Ursa Major, which we're going to get into in just a moment. And so there's a Ursa Major and a Ursa Minor. But let's get into it and find out, why are we going to the north? Okay? You want to touch on that, Faith?
Yep. So let's go. Let's go Pharaoh's way, right? So the stars play an important role in guiding the deceased to the polar region. Orion, Sirius, and the morning star will save him from the rage of the dead who go head downwards, okay? Now, again, we are in a matrix, right? And when a baby is being birthed, the head must turn downward to come out of the mother's vagina, right? So to come to its birth, the head must be twisted around, you know, head first, right? You can find that in Coffin Text 44. Further, Orion lifts up the water of the deceased bark, Coffin Text 61, and give the deceased his warrant, while the greater bear makes the path for him to the western horizon, and that's Coffin Text 482. So you guys can see the birthing. This is our real birth. You know, this is what's called the virgin birth, and it's really been twisted, you know, throughout these religious texts to confuse the populace, again, to keep them in that loop and really get you to veer away from your actual true birth.
Right. Yes. And as you can see, once again, these are the Coffin Text 44, Coffin Text 61, and Coffin Text 482, which all reference what we're saying here. And so, why go to the north, though? Okay? And we're going to get into it, and the reason why these constellations are very prominent, and if I'm not mistaken, it's going to touch on into another slide in just a moment, is that these stars are the imperishable stars within our solar system. So it doesn't matter where you are or what's going on, these constellations always show up.
And if you pay attention to the matrix that we are in, like, just really be super aware, right? You have Sirius satellite radio, okay? That's one of the biggest broadcasters, and we already know what broadcasting means, okay?
And Orion is a huge film production company.
Come on now, let's get with it. And then that movie that they made with that polar bear, that panda movie, okay? They tell us these things, like, they really, it's out there for us to see. We just have to want to really see it.
Yeah, and it's real funny, and it's not so much funny, but I'm gonna show you too on the next text. And if you all are familiar with Coca-Cola and how around Christmas time, Coca-Cola has their polar bears. They got one big bear and they got one small bear. And they're telling you because of this, okay? The bear marks the path. The bear marks the path. And I'm gonna read this for you. The god Horus encourages the deceased to walk the sky waters, while the imperishable and unwavering, that's what I was looking for, unwavering stars navigate, Coffin Text 62. So, in order to find north, you have to know the star constellations, because the star constellation, if you can find the Big Dipper, you can find the Little Dipper, where the North Star shows up. And it is also the reason why the pyramids are lined up exactly the way that they are, which I definitely should have put a picture on here for that. But when you look at the pyramids in Egypt, they point towards the North Star, and it never moves. All the other stars around it move around, as you can see here on the right. Now, I like to know how many people actually see something else on the right. There is a very ancient symbol that some people have used in a negative sense. If you see the symbol, please unmute yourself and let us know what symbol you see.
Just say, I see it.
Okay? Because there's a reason for this. But as you can see, the Big Dipper moves around the North Star, or the Big Dipper moves around the Little Dipper, okay? But it always points to that North Star. And if you don't know how to find the North Star, one of the things you have to look for is in the Big Dipper, you want to find the constellation or the star bump. I may be mispronouncing this, but I got to spell correctly. Believe me on that. So, so you want to find the star Dun and the Merca, okay? When you find these two stars and you see how they line up, they perfectly point towards the North Star every time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find these constellations, then you can find what true north is, and you can start the process to getting out of the Watt. Okay? There's somebody, I don't know if you wanted to unmute it.
We got little something.
Hold on, let me see in the chat. Yeah. Who knows what this is? The swastika.
You got it, baby.
There you got
it. You got it.
So that is the swastika. So this is not something that is evil. It has nothing to do with Hitler. This is a representation of how to go home.
And it seems like Hitler had figured it out, if you ask me.
We're going to leave that for another.
We're going to leave that for another video.
We're going to leave that for another video. All right. But yet and still, why go to the north?
Why? But okay. Why? You know, hey.
So we're about to point out why is it so important to go to the north. Because at the north, that is where the cusp is.
And this is where we all need to go.
Okay. If you don't remember anything else, remember that you need to get to the cusp.
Yep.
The cusp, baby. Yeah, baby. Get to that cusp. Oh God! Shout out to Brother Patty.
Man, he is a fool.
He pretty much bored that into our heads. But yeah, but the cusp is the weakest point of the magnetosphere. Okay, as you can see from this depiction here. And also, this is another point to really do some additional research on, is that in order to really understand what is going on with the Earth's magnetosphere, is to understand primer fields. And this is actually something that we recently came into some knowledge on, as far as once we go into our discussions and things, is understanding that there is pretty much a magnetic bowl that is above and below our magnetosphere, and it creates this whole field that you see. And so at the end of this, once again, I'll probably see if I can pull it up and show it outside of the recording, because it's somebody else's material and we're not going to include that in there. But there are primer fields that are around the Earth's atmosphere, okay? There's one north and there's one south. And when you get into that primer field, when you get right into the middle of it, it literally shoots you out of the magnetosphere.
And that's what they call shoe sneezing.
Yes.
You can consider that shoe to be sneezing.
Yes.
Like an ejaculation, if you want to, call it that way. Because the universe, it's constantly creating. And the creative energy is a cosmic, like an orgasmic energy, organism.
Yeah, which is a video that we're going to do on Monday, as far as really showing how this whole creation is one of sexual nature.
It is a sexual nature because it's created, and this is how you create. Yeah,
but let's get back into it. But yeah, so that is the reason why you want to go to the north, because at the north is where you have the magnetosphere weakest point. Because if you go, go into the cusp. Because if you go either way, you're getting trapped and you're coming right back here.
You're going to be right back here as a baby, feeling really upset, like, what did I do? You ever seen those pictures of those babies looking really angry, like they don't want to be here? It takes them about 2 months to smile. I really feel those are the ones who came back to the light and did not really make it to their next level.
Right. Now, this is on a scientific level as to why this is the weakest point. But let me also show you in the pyramid text and the coffin text where they actually were referring to this whole process. Now, I'm just going to read this first, and then I'm going to show you a clip from the video that we showed previously, just so you can see how this is happening.
Right.
Okay, so in this pyramid text, which is actually over a series of them, because you see down here is pyramid text 304, 311, 470, and 568 is where they are referencing this this text that I'm about to share with you. The bull of Ra with 4 horns, which represent north, west, south, and east, bend down western horns for a king to pass. Ra with 4 winds that are gentle or destructive, king drives away storm. Bull of sky bends down horn for a king to pass. Now, let me go back just for a moment on this picture of the cusp. In this area here, there are no solar winds that are pushing you around. It is pretty much calm. It is like the eye of the storm, okay? This is the other reason why we're going to the north and exiting out of the magnetosphere through the cusp, okay? Because there's no other forces. If you can make yourself through this center, you don't have any forces that's really stopping you from exiting this matrix.
Right.
Okay? But getting into it and showing you, now just keeping in mind, we're talking about the 4 horns bending down western for the king to pass. Now watch this video here. And you probably won't even need the audio. You can just see it.
Look at it and see.
But yeah, but just watch
The
this.
area of space where the magnetic field interacts with the solar wind is called Earth's magnetosphere.
Boom,
Its
right
shape
there.
constantly
The horns
changes
are
as it's
bending down.
bombarded by solar particles.
They are bending
As positively
down for the
charged
king to
protons
pass.
and negatively charged electrons enter the magnetosphere,
Like,
most of them
once again, this is something that wow.
It's scientific. It's not all woo woo and I don't know how to explain it. Everything has an explanation. The solution was created before the problem.
Yes.
Always. So when they purposely separated the religion from the science, it made a woo woo world.
Yes.
It created a world of belief instead of a world of knowing. Because when you can prove something, you know, versus just I'm just going to believe because I'm not sure.
Right. So yeah, there you go. All right. So let's get into it now. What is up with this stairway to heaven?
Let's get it.
So in the pyramid text, if you remember in the beginning, it was talking about the king going up the stairway to heaven. Okay. And so is there really a stairway to heaven? Now, before we get into the stairway to heaven, one thing that we have to remind you all,
disclaimer,
is that you are your savior. And this fact was known even back in Egyptian time. Case in point, this is a very crucial, in our opinion, a very crucial point in the coffin text. I'm going to read the first one. Actually, no, ladies first. You read the first one, I'll read the second.
All right. It says, you are your own savior. Okay. The deceased, which is when you lift the body, your etheric has detached, right? Makes it very clear that he rises to the height of heaven and uses his power for himself in the afterlife. Okay. Let me say that again. The deceased makes it very clear that he rises to the height of heaven and uses his power for himself in the afterlife. And that's in Coffin Text 75. He takes the advice of the funerary text and wills his consciousness. You will your consciousness north towards the pole star Polaris, or the polar region of the sky. Coffin Text 1030. So it's nobody coming to get you. You can't,
nobody coming to get you at all.
This is you. Just like you came into this world through the womb and you pushed yourself out, it's the same thing. So gotta remember, on a micro level, it's the same thing that we are experiencing on a macro level. As within, so without. This is how we apply these natural laws.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So just once again, note, now this bottom text is actually a reference to one of the skills that we're going to go into that is necessary in order to exit this matrix. Because in knowing that this is something that the Egyptian kings and nobilities were preparing for, not only were they writing these inscriptions on the wall, there were certain skills that they were developing while they were here up until the point that they exited.
Yep.
And we're going to get into that, so definitely hold tight. We're almost there.
And believe it or not, this is something that they teach in these mystery schools.
Exactly.
They call it mystery schools, but it's really just information that they obtained from the ancients that they just really don't want to share.
Right.
You know?
Pretty much. But yeah, so before we get into the stairway to heaven, just know that you are your savior. So if you don't save yourself, if you don't prepare yourself now, we're not gonna get no doomsday.
Well, it's not a doomsday. It's
No,
just
it's not
that
a
you're
doomsday.
not ready, and then you just come back here, and until you are ready.
Right.
So it's not a doomsday. Oh my God, no! You just get re-scrambled, and then you come back here and you start the process over again.
Right. Okay. But let's get into the stairway. So now, right here, we just combine some of the science along with the religion. Okay. But just understanding that the stairway actually equals a flux transfer event. Okay, we're getting scientific here. But I'll read the coffin text, well, excuse me, the period text, I'll let you read the flux, okay? So the king ascends stairway to Ra. King ascends Ra's ladder to Duat. Western ladder or stairway. And we're talking about pyramid text 267, 262, 271, 304, 306, and 333. Pyramid text 333.
Okay, we're gonna go to the stairway.
But what is a flux?
Right, so on a scientific level, so the stairway is the flux transfer event, and you can actually witness this yourself.
Yes.
I mean, if you can go on YouTube, you can pull up videos and you can see this event taking place. So the flux transfer event, which is the FTE, occurs when a magnetic portal opens in the Earth's magnetosphere, through which high energy particles flow from the sun. This connection, while previously thought to be permanent, has been found to be brief and very dynamic. The European Space Agency 4-cluster spacecraft and NASA 5 Themis probes have flown through the surrounded these FTEs, measuring their dimensions and identifying the particles that are transferred between the magnetic fields. So you see, this is something that actually occurs. This is merging, if you want to call it the woo-woo, which is the religion and the science together, so that, you know, we can have whole thinking. We can re-emerge Mayat, which is right order.
Yes, 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 yes. And once again, I really wish that we had come across the information about the primer fields prior to finishing this presentation, because the primer fields actually show how this stairway is occurring. It's actually the magnetic lines that are happening, because if you imagine a bow, if you're close around to the edge of the bow, it will actually lead you out a certain way. And so it is very scientific, it is very spiritual, what is going on. And so as within, so without. So whatever is happening to you on a cosmic level is also happening to you on a spiritual level, okay? And so far, we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot, but one of the things that we definitely would be remiss if we didn't put this in here is that there is a warning that we would like to make sure that everybody is fully aware of, okay? For the most part, the process in exiting the Duat is automatic, especially if you have the knowledge of where to go, okay? And you know how to wield your consciousness. But along that path, there is a point to where Ra's boat could be stopped, okay? And just remember that Ra's boat is the boat that's taking you out of the Duat and helping you get to the stars,
right?
Okay? So the first thing is that it's going to get really hot.
And then again, this is about transformation. And we all know fire is the energy of transformation. It's how you break stuff down. It's how you get the goodies when you're cooking your food. It's how you get the delicious, whatever you're making.
Yes.
Delicious, but it needs to be transformed for you to get the deliciousness.
Okay. So now what you're looking at on the right here is Earth's Van Allen belt. Okay. And if you're not familiar with the Van Allen belt, on the right, you have a lot of radiation, but on the inside, the inner radiation is really, really hot. And that type of radiation, if you're not prepared or if you're not connected to Ra's boat, which provides you with the high energy to avoid those hot areas, then you could essentially have what's called a second death. And this was referred to in the coffin text here, which it says the importance of having high energy to avoid the Van Allen belt may be why the deceased hates storms, coffin text 1099, and worry about not finding the ferry boat, coffin text 136, that is not bonding to the sun god. Now, we're going to get into some things on that, but the reason why you want to connect with Ra's sunboat is that because Ra's sunboat has high energy, and with that high energy, you're able to avoid that extreme radiation so that you can navigate around that and exit this matrix.
Right. Let me just read this real quick. High energy is needed for the journey. So if the deceased represents low energy electrons, it seems reasonable to infer that by boarding the Ra's ferry boat or bonding to energetic sun god, the deceased might empower his own molecular form with an energy greater than the cutoff 300 keV, thus saving himself from acceleration into the Van Allen belt. That's where the radiation is, where second death is possible. Now, the second death is the rescrambling of your DNA, right? And you just doing the whole thing over again.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's where you can avoid the second death. And this is actually one of the things that actually fuel the imagery of hell. Okay.
Right, right.
Because in this Van Allen belt, if you're not connected with Ra's boat, and there's some additional research to go into as far as making sure that you are connected with Ra's boat. It's very technical and very scientific, but we definitely encourage you to look into that information. But when you look at it at the end of the day, as within, so without. So when it comes to I mean, there's no other way to really say this.
We're gonna suggest the book. Once you get this book, you go through this book with a fine-tooth comb, because this is really gonna help. And then don't let this be your stopping point neither.
No.
Okay, this is where you begin.
Yes.
It's like a beginner's point, and then you do your own research and also go off of your own gnosis. Your own gnosis is better than any book that you would ever read.
Right.
Okay, these are like, it's a remembering.
Yes.
I mean, if you can go to Egypt and look in the tombs and meditate and get your own interpretation, kudos to you.
Yes.
But if you're not able to, these books are amazing. This lady, I don't even know if this is her, but hey, if it is, good for her. The ISIS thesis by Judy K. King, she broke down bacteria and viruses, you know. She did a very, very good job on a scientific level and really matched and merged information within the walls of Egypt.
Yes.
And really proved that, you know, our ancestors, they knew how to come in and go out at will. And, you know, a lot of the times they try to make it seem that they were sun worshipers and they were obsessed with death. But it had nothing to do with being obsessed with death and being sun worshipers. It's just that they chose to acknowledge this universe. You know, they acknowledged the natural laws. They didn't try to fight against it and say they didn't believe in it because it's there, right? They just understood. They had a different gnosis and understanding, right? And so they utilized the information that they knew to continuously grow on a conscious level
All right.
right? And so this book right here, really, you should get it. If you guys don't
Well,
have this book,
Well, at the end, we got an image on how you can
Yeah.
get this and everything, but this book right here, so just be patient. And for one, I definitely want to thank all of you all who are here, because
Right.
we are almost 2 hours in,
Mm.
and y'all are in here getting this information, which is a testament to show that you are of the kings and queens and nobilities
yes,
who are ready for this information.
energy is
Okay.
fitting.
Yes. So we're going to get into it because we got a little bit more to get into. But like we said, this is a lot of information. We've taken information that we have been going over since for at least the past year.
Right.
But once we actually got wind of this book, it took a lot of what we knew and made it just like turn on the light bulb, like, oh, I see it now.
Clicked. Everything just clicked.
Yeah, but what we're sharing today is really a short, brief summary of what we have come to a knowing of over the past year and a half.
Right.
Okay, but let's get into it because we got quite a few more to go into. And thank you all so much for your patience and hanging in here with us. But we're going to get through it, and we're going to do our best to help you get out of the Dewat. Okay? All right. So, just two quick things, which I wanted to mention before, is that if you make it through the double doors, this process is pretty much automatic. And getting through the double doors is when you get to the point of where you get to the stairway. And one of the things that's mentioned in the pyramid text is that you will be asked a question. And that question is pretty much asking you on whether or not you are the king, whether or not you are the dead king. And you have to be able to answer that question, yes, I am the king. I am God. And once you can recognize that and really let that sit in with you and not think of it in some negative way of identify yourself as God, then you can really be able to exit this matrix.
Right.
Okay?
And so, you know, again, if you're still on that search for like something outside of you to come and save you, or you're still looking to have warships, you know, if you're still looking for those things, then again, you will just go where your vibrational match.
Yes.
So you'll be re-scrambled and put back here because you're still wanting to take part. And it's, you know, it's not like a right or wrong.
No.
It's just that you're not ready to move to the next level. So
Yeah.
you will go where you're vibrating at, pretty much.
Yes. And the second thing is just knowing that you will be tested with high levels of UV rays. But if you are able to join with Roz Bowden, his crew of 8, you will make it through and join the stars. Okay? So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. But there are certain skills that are going to be needed in order to ascend. Now, one of I'm gonna come out of here just for a moment, just so you all can see us, because if you remember early on in the text, where it's saying that the deceased king wills his consciousness to the north. Now, in talking about willing your consciousness to the north, there is a set of certain skills.
Yeah,
I feel like that movie.
Right.
A set of certain skills.
Right. You will your consciousness. What will?
Yeah. You have to be able to will your consciousness to the north. Once you're able to will your consciousness to the north, then once again, that the rest of this stuff is pretty much automatic. Now, herein lies the things that the kings and queens and nobilities were working on until it came to their point of actually leaving their vessel. Okay, and let's get into it. So y'all are getting some kings and queens information here today. Okay, so these skills that are needed. First one is meditation. Now, let's give you all a little bit deeper understanding of what it means to meditate. To meditate means to ponder, to think abstractly, to engage in mental contemplation. Okay? But in looking at this definition, for me or for us, it brought up the question, what should I be pondering about? Okay? And one of the things that we came to a realization on in going through this, and actually, before I go into the next thing, one of the things that you will definitely see when you go through and read the pyramid text is that it's recognizing that it's so many times in the pyramid text to say that I am the king, I am God, I am Ra, I am Osiris, I am this, I am that. It is written over and over and over and over again in the pyramid text. And so with that being said, the thing that we're supposed to be pondering about is, let's get into it. The thing that we're supposed to be pondering about is you. You are supposed to be pondering about you in meditation. Yes. So it is very important that you know thyself. It's very important that you know who you are.
Have to.
And you are so much more than any titles. You are so much more than your skin color. You are so much more than your weight or whatever. You are so much more.
Yeah.
Now, if you need a little bit of assistance in figuring out who you are, there is a certain practice that is called Raja Yoga.
This is the truth right here.
Okay. This Raja Yoga okay, I'm gonna read this. Raja Yoga is a series of lessons designed to enlighten regarding the nature of the real self, to instruct in the secret knowledge, the consciousness and realization of the real self.
Not the self they told you, not the self that the matrix has tried, well, the fake matrix, I should say. Not all of those labels that they put on you, right? All of that other stuff that they do. No, the true you, your consciousness. So once you discover your consciousness, what it is, right? Then you can start willing it places.
Yes. Yes. Now, this is also an opportunity for a screenshot because at the bottom here is a website link where you can go. It's called sacred-text.com. This is where you can actually get a copy or be able to read the copy of the Raja Yoga for free.
Yep, so no excuses.
Okay. You can go and read it for the free. And in addition to that, if you type in Raja Yoga in YouTube, there is an audio book.
For free.
For free.
So it's really no excuse.
There are no excuses for you to not know who you are.
Right.
Okay?
You can't say I don't got no money.
Right. Now, one of the things we wanted to highlight out of this Raja Yoga, this is just out of the first lesson out of 13 of the Raja Yoga. And out of the Raja Yoga, there are some affirmations after each lesson that you're supposed to ponder on, you're supposed to meditate on. And this first set of mantras is, and this is just so powerful, and this is actually the meditation that I created or that we recreated. I mean, it's my voice that's on there,
Right.
But we created this meditation that we put on our YouTube channel and saying these affirmations. And we did that on purpose because we wanted to give individuals something to meditate on. But we didn't tell them exactly why, but subconsciously, their higher self know why we put that out. But let's just read these affirmations. This is just very, very powerful.
Yes.
I am a center. Around me revolves my world. I am a center of influence and power. I am a center of thought and consciousness. I am independent of the body. That is very, very key. It's saying I am independent of the body. So you are not your body.
Right.
I am immortal and cannot be destroyed. I am invincible and cannot be injured. These are some of the lessons or some of the things that the mantras to ponder during your meditations. And just pondering on these things will open you up to the truth of who you are.
Indeed.
And this is just one of the first lessons. So just imagine how the other 12 are.
It's beautiful.
All right. So what's the next skill that we need to go into, man?
Oh, this is my favorite, astral projection. And just you know, a quick tip, you got to see the Netflix series Behind Her Eyes.
Yes.
You have to see it. It is just, please go see it, Behind Her Eyes. And then you really understand astral projection.
Yes.
Okay. Now go to the north. You see that little swirl right there? If you have seen The Wizard of Oz, you would recognize what this swirl looks like. Okay. So astral, pertaining to the stars. That's what astral means. Astrology, right? So anything that ends in logy means the study of. So astrology is the study of the stars. So from late Latin astros, from Latin astrum, star, from Greek astron is star, meaning pertaining to super sensible substances. Is from 1960s, popularized in the late 90s. Okay, so projection. What does it mean to project, right? Projection, projection.
Just read that part.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go down here. It's throwing forward, stretching out. So if astral means pertaining to the stars, and projection means throwing forward, stretching out, in simple mundane terms, what does that mean?
It means that you are to throw yourself to the stars.
Literally.
In astral projection. Because when you're able to throw yourself to the star, you first of all, you know who you are, and you know where you're going to go. You know that you are the dead king, and you want to exit this matrix. You go and you will your consciousness to the north. You project your consciousness to the stars, okay? And in projecting yourself to the stars, this is all of what astral projection is. You know, astral projection is a term used in, gosh, why am I drawing a blank on how to pronounce that word?
Come on, baby, you got it. Burn the sage. See what I keep the sage going.
In a term used in eccentricism, wow, I can't believe I forgot how to pronounce that, to describe an intentional out-of-body experience. This is an intentional out-of-body experience of a soul called the astral body, okay? This is a separation from the physical and capable of traveling outside and throughout the universe, okay? So when we're talking about astral projection, we are talking about, and did I put it in the slide? I hope I did. I did not, okay? But we're talking about the 7 subtle bodies. And I'm gonna go ahead and go to this next one just to put it out here. This book here is the real deal Holyfield.
This book is the truth.
Now, not so much the one that's showing on the screen. And I'm gonna tell you why, because the revision part actually left out some key points that are in the original. Now, the original is the link below. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, this would be an awesome opportunity for you to screenshot this so that you can go to this website. If you type it in word for word, character for character, it will take you to a site where you can download the original book for free.
There we go.
Okay. And in this book, he goes through very, very detailed information about how to astral travel. What is astral travel really about? What are the different levels of astral traveling and what to expect when you astral travel? Now, this is something that is really hold deep and close to my heart because astral traveling is something that almost feels like second nature to me. And a lot of times we do it and we don't know that we're doing it. And actually he breaks down in this book why we don't remember that we astral travel.
You sure did.
Because every night what is going on, when we go in certain levels of sleep, once we reach a certain level of sleep, our astral body makes copies of itself.
Yeah.
It makes copies of itself, it expands out, and then it starts to go out and explore. And these other versions of yourself have full, complete awareness and consciousness. They don't need you to tell what to do, okay? They don't need your permission to go out and explore the world.
No sir, no ma'am.
But here's the thing that that most people aren't aware of, is that the reason why you don't remember is that because when it comes to the integration, okay, if you're not aware and you're doing this on purpose, you don't know when to get back into your body. And this actually goes into the sleep paralysis part that some people experience.
And they think something is attacking them.
So just to give you a heads up, which is something that's going to be explained in this book, whenever you have tried to get back into your body, excuse me, let me back up. When you go through, you turn on the light, baby, because it's starting to get dark.
Yeah.
We've been going for a minute. We're right at the end, y'all. We're right at the end.
Right at the cusp. We're right at the cusp.
Okay. One of the things that happens when you're having that that feeling like somebody's trying to get into your body, it's actually you. It's one of the versions of you that's been out exploring, having fun, and things of that nature, and is trying to get back in the body. But in this particular book, he actually teaches how to do this astral projection, and knowing that you have to get back into your body before you go into REM sleep. Because before you, excuse me, when you are in REM sleep, you're pretty much locked out of the body. You can't get back in until you actually get to the point where you're about to wake up, and then there's another chance where you need to get in before you actually wake up. Because what happens is that there's, when it comes to storing memory, first, your physical body has priority as far as saving memory. Okay? And so if you get in after the body has stored the memory, then that astral projection is not going to be remembered.
You don't remember, and it's like you never had it if you don't remember it.
But if you can remember to get back into your body before you go into REM sleep, or if you can find that small little window before you wake up in the morning, you can get back into your body, reintegrate that memory, and take that memory with you. Okay? You can then override the physical body's memory. And this is talked about in this book here. I'm gonna bring it back up. It is
in detail,
it's
too.
very, very detailed.
Very, very intricate detail on how to astral project, even experiences that you might have in the early stages if you're new to astral projection and stuff like that. He breaks it down into detail. Like when you're finished reading this book, you should know how to astral travel. And how to astral project. You should have a better understanding on how to actually do it.
And also he dispels a myth that if you astral project, then your body is left empty and then demons or whatever can get inside of your body. That is not the case if you're doing it naturally.
Naturally. And we stress naturally. Because naturally, which means you don't do those like heroin or whatever you want to call it. You really don't want to do those heavy pharmaceutical hallucinogenic things too, because it seems like this is a thing that people do. They to get into these type of states, they'll do those drugs or whatnot, but that's dangerous. You don't want to do that. This is something that you want to solely do with you.
And when we say this, because during the series that we watched on Netflix, it actually brought up a really serious point for us to consider. Because in that series, and I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible because we've been going for almost 3 hours. In the series, the guy learns how to astral project from his friend, and he does heroin on a regular basis. Now, when he is taking heroin, it is really putting the body into a death state. The breath is real shallow. It's very, once again, it's a sleep and death are cousins. But you can get to a point where you can slow your heart rate down, and you can slow down your breathing rate so much that you can be considered clinically dead. When you look into the Raja Yoga, one of the Swami something, I can't remember his name, he can kill himself at will and come back.
See, those things you really don't want to, you shouldn't do when you're new to astral projection, because at that given point in time, you know how a body,
Course,
you know, you can lose it, and then something else can enter, and you will just not have your vehicle anymore. So you don't want to do those things with drugs and stuff.
No.
When you do an astral projection and stuff like that, you definitely just want to do it with yourself, your higher self.
Right.
And you project yourself with just you, so that you maintain that cord.
Yes.
Okay.
So now with this book here, once again, just making it really clear, through the instructions that are given in this book, you will be able to astral project and be able to, astral project and do it safely.
Safely. There you go.
Okay. So just keep that in mind, that you will be able to do this safely. Now, once you become a pro and you're doing all this stuff, then you can start integrating some other things, but start off on the training wheels. We're on our training wheels right now.
Right. We don't ever suggest adding any of those pharmaceutical substances to help you to astral project. We
not
really
astral project, no.
Astral travel. We do not advise any of those pharmaceutical, because when you look up the meaning of the word pharmaceutical, it literally means poison. Right. So you don't want to use any of those things to assist you in astral traveling.
All right. So we just want to make that clear. All right. Now this next part is where we're going to be having some really hands-on experience with all of you, because in this point, if you're on our website and you're a site member, which all of you are, then you are going to have access to a private group where we're going to be encouraging you to write down your dreams every night. And we're going to get into it in just a moment. But first, we're going to talk about the next skill, which is lucid dreaming. Okay? Well, first, we're going to break down just the etymology of lucid dreaming, right? So in lucid, just going to the highlighted part, it just means to be light, to be bright and clear.
And shining.
Okay? And then dreams is just a sequence of sensations, images passing through the mind of a sleeping person. Now, the goal is to be lucid in your dreams and to be lucid in your real life. It means that because when you look at a sequence of sensations and images passing through the mind, that's the same as being awake and being around here. It's just realizing that you are in a dream, and that when you're dreaming, that you're in a dream. Okay, so that's what it means to lucid dream. Now, you want to read that one, baby?
So what is lucid dreaming? A lucid dream is a type of dream where the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming. During a lucid dream, the dreamer may gain some amount of control over the dream characters, narrative, and environment. However, this is not actually necessary for a dream to be described as lucid. So you don't necessarily have to control the environment, narrative, and characters for you to be lucid. As long as you are aware that you were dreaming, you can just travel. You can leave things as they are and explore it as they are, but you also have the opportunity to shift stuff around, being that you do realize now that you are the dreamer. You're the one that's perceiving this dream.
Yes. Now, one of the other reasons why lucid dreaming is very crucial in this process is that once you go through this whole path and you get to the stars, you are essentially, you have completely gathered all together, all of your pieces. You put yourself back together just like Osiris did, and you have become a full God in every sense of the matter, which means that now you are able to create. Your lucid dreaming is your practicing for creating new worlds, new universes, okay? Because once you are aware that you are in a dream, because once I realize that I'm in a dream, it's like, it is amazing.
It is amazing. Now, just really think about if this is too big for you to consider, right? Creating your own world or creating your own universe. Think about the people that print the money on this planet. I'm going there. Yeah, I'm going there. I'm going there. Okay.
Sip tea.
Sip your tea, because I'm going to go there. Think about the people that print the money on this planet.
Yes.
Okay, the people that say we don't have enough money when they own the machine that prints the money. Think about the people that's printing the money, and we are really in realization that the money actually is a promissory note and it has no actual gold to back it. There is nothing backing this money. The only thing that's holding up this promissory note is the collective consciousness.
Exactly.
So if they can have a bunch of beings that's running around creating fiat currency and creating money and creating the world, think about the people that make up these rules in this world. Think about the people that have the judicial system and they created the judicial system and they created all this thing. Think about those people that actually create. They don't feel any type of way creating religions. Think about the people that made the religions, that created the religions. That's a lot of creating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So why is it impossible for us to think that we can also create our own world and create our own fiat currency?
Right.
It is not impossible. I guess you just have to be at that place in your consciousness to be ready to evolve to that level and no longer be controlled by someone's dream, but actually be in your dream and create your own narrative.
There you go.
On a cosmic level.
Yeah. Because once you go through that Raja Yoga and you realize that you're a God and you're able to project your consciousness to the north, then you can use these lucid dreams to create whatever you want to create and live in a universe wherever you want to live. Because understanding that once you leave this vessel, wherever you vibrate on the most is where you're going to go. And a lot of times, if you created your happy place and you're vibrating on that high frequency, that happy place is where you're going to go. That was an awesome movie that we watched with Robin Williams.
The Dream. The Dare to Dream.
What was the look that up while I
you guys
that's
you
an
have
awesome
not
movie.
This is a movie that you have to see. And this guy actually in real life, Robin Williams, he actually committed suicide.
Yeah, so he left on purpose.
He left on purpose.
If you would look up that movie, I'm gonna go into
What
the next
Dreams
part.
May Come.
Oh, What Dreams May Come. There we
Please,
go.
guys, watch that movie. What Dreams May Come.
All right. So yeah, definitely that just understanding, because part of what he did in that movie is that he created his heaven while he was on earth.
He already did it.
And so when he passed on to the next thing, he was able to go right to his heaven.
And him and his twin flame did it because they were twin flames.
Right.
You got to see it, guys.
Yes.
What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
Yes. So there are 5 techniques that we're going to kind of brush through on this one. Because, like I said, we're going to have a group. It's on the website. You all should have already received the invitation if you've already been on our website so that you can be a part of that group. And we're going to be walking with you all on this journey with this, okay? So there are 5 techniques when it comes to lucid dreaming. The first one is the reality test.
Yeah.
The reality test, in a very simple way, is asking yourself, am I awake? Am I sleeping right now? And you have different reality tests that you do with yourself. One of the things is that you can look at a clock and look away and then look back. If the time hasn't changed, then you're probably awake. But if you look at that clock and it says 2 o'clock, you look away and look back and it says 3:33, you're probably dreaming.
Yeah, more than likely.
Okay? Or if you take your finger and you try to poke it through your hand, if you don't poke your finger through your hand, then you're probably awake. But if you put your hand through your finger, if you put your finger through your hand, 9 times out of 10, you are sleeping.
And then you will be lucid because you will be aware that you are dreaming.
Now, this is where meditation comes in, because when you do that for the first time, you're going to get real excited and you're going to pop yourself.
Yeah, you're going to jump yourself out of there because your vibration will change.
Right. But through meditation, it's going to help you stay in the middle so that you can be in that lucid dream and really experience it.
Yeah.
Now, the second one, what's the second one, baby?
The second one, wake back to bed. This is a very good one, and it actually did help me. And I didn't even realize in the beginning that's what you were doing, but it was helping me for real. WBTB, wake back to bed. Wake back to bed involves entering REM sleep while you're still conscious. There are many versions of wake back to bed, but consider this technique. So to wake back to bed, you have to set an alarm for 5 hours after your bedtime. Go to sleep as usual. When the alarm goes off, stay up for 30 minutes. Enjoy a quiet activity like reading. Don't do anything too vigorous that's going to take you too far out of that feeling that you're having. And then you fall back to sleep.
Yes, because what happens is that you are going back to sleep on purpose, and if you do it properly, as soon as you go to sleep and you get into that dream, you're going to recognize that I'm dreaming.
And then, you know, you have to think about it consciously. You're preparing yourself, and you're preparing your consciousness to dream. So you'll be more aware.
Yes. And now the next technique is the gosh, wow, I'm lost for words, but this is the mild mnemonic induction of lucid dream.
There you go.
Essentially, it's called mild. There you go. Now, in mild, in this technique, as you fall asleep, you think of a recent dream that you've had. Okay, it can be whatever dream that you have. I know there's one that I've had with Leisha when we were in Atlantis, and I've been trying to go back to it. I went to it once, but I'm not able to go back as much as I would like to. But you can think of a dream that you had that you know for sure was a dream. And then you look for the dream identifiers. And you pretty much, let me go through the steps, okay? So as you fall asleep, you think of a recent dream. Identify a dream sign or something that's irregular or strange in the dream. For example, your ability to fly. Then you think about returning to the dream. Acknowledge that the dream signs only happen when you dream. Okay, so yeah, you can think about like you're not able to fly while you're here, but in your dreams you are able to fly. And then you tell yourself, the next time I dream, I want to remember that I am dreaming. Recite this phrase in your head. And you recite this phrase in your head while you're going to sleep because it's getting into your subconscious. Because it may seem silly at first, but there's going to come a dream and you're going to ask yourself, am I dreaming? And then you're going to realize that you are.
But I'm telling you, you have to not get excited. Because this happened to me the first time I realized that I was awake in the dream. I got excited and I literally pulled myself out of there. I felt myself vacuum out of there. So you have to remember not to get excited. Once you realize that you're dreaming, don't get too excited. Okay?
All right. Now the next one is one that we're going to be helping you all out with as well, which is keeping a dream journal.
Yeah, that's key.
Okay. The dream journal, essentially what this is doing, when you do it on a regular basis, what you are telling your subconscious is that I want to remember my dreams. Okay. So if you make it a practice to wake up, and as soon as you wake up, start writing down your dreams, you are sending a message to your subconscious that you want to remember your dreams. And when you do that, it also tells you certain keys to knowing when you're dreaming, so that when you do get into a dream, you're like, hold up, I wrote this down before. I'm dreaming. And you're in that lucid dreaming. And once you're aware that you're in a lucid dream, then you can go through and start building as you really want to. Now, the last one is the wake initiated lucid dreaming, which is called wild. Okay. And in this technique, a person is attempting to remain consciousness while crossing over the wake state to dream. Now, this is the one that I use a lot. What I do, this first step is that you wake yourself up after 4 to 6 hours. Okay. Then you go back into the bed and lie completely still and maintain your awareness into a sleep state. So essentially what that is saying is that, dream state. So essentially what's happening is that I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lay back here. I'm going to do my best to remain conscious that I'm going into a dream state. Now, here's a freaky thing that happens. And of course, you do your reality checks and you end up going into a lucid dream. But here's the trippy thing that happens.
Yeah, I don't like
Okay.
that part. That's what
But you
happened
gotta-
the last couple days. I don't like that, but hey, we got to deal with it.
Yeah, this is the trippy part. When you stay conscious, going back, there is a feeling of literally going through something.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you what it is. I can't even write it or do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing that there is literally a sensation of going through something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay? And when you do that, you go right into that dream. You know that you're dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the crazy part is that past few nights, past few mornings, we've been waking up twice.
Wake up, then we wake up. Because I keep saying that there is a world that looks just like this one.
Mm-hmm.
This is before you go into like a deep, deep sleep. There is literally a world that looks just like this one. Everything looks the same. And so it trips you out because sometimes when you think you have awakened, you got up, you made breakfast.
Yeah.
You done told your dreams to somebody.
I done went through and opened up the windows and watered the plants and everything. And then I get back home like, hold up, I'm still in the bed. What the hell?
Right? Didn't I do this already? So that's that trippy part right there.
Yeah. But let's just get to the end because we're right at the end. I do apologize because I got like 2 slides left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But this is the book, once again, that we were recommending for all of you all to get. Now, I think Alexis has already gotten her copy.
Got her copy.
And in our Amazon store, we do have these books available for purchase. So yes, it does help us out a little bit if you purchase it from our Amazon store versus going through any others, because we do get a little bit of kickback. It doesn't change the price of the book at all.
Not at all.
It just gives us a little bit of incentive if you all do purchase the book through our Amazon store. And that is pretty much it. Okay, so we have reached the end of the presentation. And so we want to thank you all so much for hanging in here with us. So in just a second, we're going to stop the recording and we're going to open it up for any type of questions, response, and things of that nature. So we appreciate you all so much for hanging in there. Thank you so much. All right. Awesome. Let me get this stopped here.